Go for Rafi.
Let's go. Okay. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Successful Aliyah Stories. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking to David Wallace. Boker Tov, David.
Good morning to you and your listeners.
Thanks for joining us. Let's start just from the beginning. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, and your Aliyah experience.
Sure. We made Aliyah 15 years ago. We, as in my wife and 4 kids, from Melbourne, Australia. We came to the city of Modiin. We were there for 5 years in the Buchman neighborhood, which is a very Anglo-centric neighborhood, a great location and great city. But within 5 years, we ended up buying a house in the town of Chana, which is where we've been living for the last 10 years. We've got 4 kids. I came at the age of 37, so my oldest was 12 at the time, and that was sort of the point where we had to make a decision. You know, kids going to high school, I'm sure that's going through people's minds. Anyone considering Aliyah, you know, the ages of the kids and how they're going to adapt and integrate, because that's the most important thing. I always say, if you got happy kids, then the parents are happy.
Right.
Of course, it works the other way as well. So it's a fine balance of, you know, trying to make sure that everyone settles down. But it was at midpoint in life. You know, most of my friends who made Aliyah from my community came as young adults, university years. I came already far more established, and it was harder to leave, on the other hand, because I don't know if you know, our community and city of Melbourne is one of the most livable places in the world. Beautiful place, great climate, great people, great opportunities as well. But at the end of the day, we wanted to live the Zionist dream. It took me 17 years to convince my wife to get on the bandwagon.
Better late than never.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Very nice. And so one of the big decisions I'm sure that you had to make is, what are you going to do for a living? So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing now and how that all came about?
Sure. It's quite a story. It's a major decision. That is, in fact, the major decision, because schools are, you know, a dime a dozen here, and communities, so many to choose from. It's you know, one's parnasa. And we set ourselves a goal, my wife and I, and that's why it took 17 years, that we only want to come and live in Israel if we can enjoy, so to speak, what Israel has to offer. If we can't enjoy, and we can't partake, and we can't allow ourselves to really embrace all that Israel has to offer, then, you know, to come here and struggle is no chokhmah, you know. So that's why it took time. So basically, by liquidating whatever business and you know, we had a house we sold off as well, and whatever other assets, we just brought whatever capital we had, and we always figured that if I bought a business and get involved in a business, then a business can, you know, one day afford to buy us a house. If I invest all my capital into a house, I won't have enough money to get involved in a business.
Right.
And in hindsight, it was the right decision. So that's why we rented for the first 5 years in the city of Modiin, as I mentioned earlier. But what we did within a year was bought an existing business that had already been a going concern here in Israel for 20 years. It was an established business in the travel and tourism industry, which was something we'd already had experience and we wanted to get into. That's both my wife and I as a family business. And our good luck was, but, you know, I say it's more than luck, because, you know, you put your mind to something and you set out with a goal, then luck comes your way. We really did set out with a vision to get involved in the travel and tourism business, which we were already back in Australia, more as a hobby. We used to run a Pesach hotel, but it transformed and became a serious business back in Australia. So when we came to Israel, we came with a view to get involved with travel and tourism. So it was more than just hotels for Pesach and Sukkot. It was a travel company that offers tours and kosher tours, kosher cruises, and kosher hotels all year round. And that's where we're at today. So we bought a business that had already been going, but, you know, had low-hanging fruits, there were a lot of opportunities. There wasn't as much competition 15 years ago, sorry. And so we sort of grew the business and scaled it up. Of course, all that until COVID,
Right.
when everything just fell flat, literally. We were at our peak in terms of turnover and profitability and staffing, and, put our pedal to the gas was all the way back in 2019. And then all of a sudden it all came crashing down. And herein, I would you asked me before the interview, what pieces of advice I might have for, people who are making Aliyah. I would say one of the most important things is to get yourself the best Israeli lawyer and best Israeli accountant. So once you've got those who understand the system more than any Anglo accountant and lawyer, because once you've got those, then you can navigate what you need to. And that is how we got through COVID. I give full credit to, my lawyers and my accountants, who we had to deal with some serious issues with COVID, and we had a hotel that was already fully booked. How do we deal with refunds and credits? Listen, we did the right thing. We came off really clean. Our clients stuck with us because we did the right thing, and all that was just as an example of, by having a good accountant and a good lawyer, you need it in this country.
I would also add is you need to have a good relationship with your bank, because that's definitely a partner in building your business, and so I think that's important. And what's the name of the company?
Kosher Travelers. That's our business, Kosher Travelers. Where if you see our logo on our website, koshertravelers.com, there's 3 words there: discover, connect, and enrich. And what we do is on every one of our projects, we set out that participants get to discover the local culture, the history. They get to connect with fellow Jews, and really on all our tours and hotels and cruises, people become very connected, and then they walk away enriched, because we bring in interesting speakers, and it just opens a world when one travels. And it's not just a commodity of selling a room and providing kosher food. It's the whole experience that goes behind it. Exactly.
Right. And I've seen from the ads in Jerusalem Post, you've gone to a lot of exotic locations. It's all over the world you're reaching out to these days, which is amazing to see. What other 1 or 2 pieces of advice could you give people who are looking to start a business? You mentioned having a good lawyer and accountant. Just off the top of your head, what are a couple other things that people should keep in mind?
Sure, Rafi. I think it's important that you do something that you enjoy doing. We enjoy traveling. We turned travel into a passion, and passion became a business. So really, we wake up every morning enjoying what we do. We don't travel all the time, but we get to travel a lot. So we get to prepare and work on the operational side. As an example, next Sunday, 2 days after Tisha B'Av, we're running a tour for 40 people to Iceland. Wow. So for the last 6 months, we'll be marketing and answering inquiries and delving into the details and preparing and bringing all the supplies and all the other end, on the local end, what needs to be done and prepared to make sure. So now that we've done all that, we get to enjoy the fruits of our labor, go on the tour. One of our sons coming with us to help us out. And so we get to, enjoy that. So one has to be passionate about what you're doing. And by having those 3 elements of discover, connect, and enrich, it sort of breathes new life into what we're doing, so that it gives it a real purpose. And we see the results. We see people walk away and they've connected with people and they've seen places and they walk away enriched. As an example, in Japan, we go to, we support obviously the kosher communities wherever they are, whether they're restaurants or Chabad houses in particular, and we raise money for them wherever we can. And it's a very, very satisfying thing, and people get to partake in that. So,
I see. Yeah. Very nice, very nice. And then in terms of advertising and building your business, coming from Australia, it's a very different way of doing business as it is in Israel. Your client base is really a mix between Anglos that are living here and people abroad. So how do you advertise it? What messages what advice can you give to entrepreneurs that are starting out? Maybe, some specific things that you've done that have worked for you that they can learn from.
Sure. I think one of the basic principles of marketing is, target your audience, know who your audience is, know who your demographics are. As an example, people ask me or ask my team, who's going to be on the tour? What type of people? Who's coming to the hotel for Pesach? Who's going to be, on the tour to Iceland? What type of people? So, I train my people to say, well, one of the first things is that we don't advertise in Hebrew. Okay. We don't advertise in the Haredi press. We don't advertise in French or in Latin America. Not that there's anything, it's just a different market, a different audience. I can't be, a solution to all. So our focus is very specific, on English-speaking people who keep kosher, who value Shabbat. We don't ask, what your level of observance are, but they're the principles. And then, it comes, once you define that, then you've got to find the outlets and the mediums and the right media to advertise and pick and choose, whether it's social media or print media or magazines or newspapers and whatnot. To get the word out there. And often it's, I came to believe that if we do a good job, then really our clients become ambassadors for us. And I don't really need to advertise. What we need to do is just wave the flag and just be present so that when people are thinking about taking a vacation, we become a household name, and Kosher Travelers, becomes, a world recognized and a brand name as such. So, really we focus on doing a great job and having people walk away satisfied, because at the end of the day, what do people talk about at the Shabbat table, right? They're talking about stock market, real estate, economy, and travel, right? Where they've been, where they're coming, where they're going. That's just, we're an navanad, right? We move, we love travel, and you're always moving forward, right? And we should always be in a mode of travel and lech lecha, moving forward, even if you're not physically traveling, but, always growing and becoming better versions of ourselves. And that's part of, what Kosher Travelers aims to do.
Makes a lot of sense. And so what are some of your final thoughts just about, somebody who's thinking about making Aliyah, and you've been through the experience, you've struggled, and now, Baruch Hashem, you're doing well. People are always, they're looking at Israel and they want to make Aliyah, but they heard about the challenges. And, if you could give them some positive encouragement and some reinforcement, what would your message to people be who are thinking about making Aliyah?
Right. So I think, today, these days, especially, your words are very poignant, because if you look at the media, you can become depressed. You can look, and it's quite tragic at the way this, our brothers are ripping each other apart. I can't relate to it. I don't go to any of these demonstrations. It's tragic the way I see it, but I do believe, and I'm optimistic, that will prevail, and the countries won't fall apart. But it has to go through this to become a better version of itself, right? And I think we'll get there. So I would say, first of all, forget about the hype in the media. Second of all, the pilot trip. I recommend it. You can't just make Aliyah without coming to check out, especially coming with kids, community, schools, of course, as we talked about, job opportunities or business opportunities. You've got to check that out before. Come on a trip. We did it. We came for 2 weeks, my wife and I. My wife was 7 months pregnant with my youngest daughter, who's 15 today. And we came for 2 weeks, and we came and we blitzed it. We came and checked out various communities. We checked out, listen, and a community is important. I'll add that as well. In Israel, in Chutz La'aretz and diaspora, most listeners probably belong to a Jewish community, to a shul, to a synagogue. You have to, in Israel, you have to look for that. It's not a given that every community or every city offers a community the way we understand a community back home. And I think it's very important because it keeps you connected. It's very easy after some time here, once you've settled down, to get a little bit lost here in Israel, right? And just drift. I think it's very important to stay plugged in to a community to somebody who you look up to and ask advice from, or whether it's a rabbi or a mentor. I think that's important. And as I said, a pilot trip, check out schools, check out businesses, check out communities, spend the Shabbat in a community to really get to know a community. And the confusing part, and I think the challenging part for people these days, is that there's just so many options, right? For Anglos alone. Rafi, if somebody comes to you and says, well, where do you recommend I should begin? Where do you begin?
Right.
Bet Shemesh, Ra'anana, Jerusalem, Modiin.
And there's more than that for sure, right? There's all these new communities that are popping up. So I agree with you. There's definitely a lot of options these days.
And then, of course, check on your budget. Live within your means in Israel. Don't overdo it. Come with savings. You need at least 6 months, I would say, of a runway of savings to be able to find your feet here. You're not going to go to work the first day you arrive. You've got to make sure your kids are settled. That's just basic advice that anyone will tell you.
Great. I definitely second that. I think that there's a lot of wonderful options. It's not easy, and but very little things, very few things in life that really are worthwhile or easy to get. And I think, looking back, I'm sure for you as well as for us, we made Aliyah 8 years ago, and it was probably the best decision we could have made for my wife and I, and for our kids as well. And Baruch Hashem, it's great to see you, leading a wonderful life, and your kids are here. And I want to just thank you for sharing that positive message with people, and wish you continued success. And if people want to get more information about the wonderful trips that you do, where should they go? What's the website address?
Kosher Travelers with one L, koshertravelers.com. That's koshertravelers.com. Or email me, david@koshertravelers.com. WhatsApp, we're very accessible. I will add one more thing. And it can be difficult in the early years, but then, if and when things work out for people and your kids have gone to the army and they've gone to university and then they get married and stay in Israel, that to me is there's no greater success than that, because it's tough to keep the kids here as well. We make Aliyah and living in two worlds. You probably see that. It's a challenge, but like you said, we have to look back, and a lot of our friends also, we're in a positive community as well. It's also an important thing. I'll add one last thing, Rafi, is that it's important to find a community with like-minded people. So you'll probably end up in a community with fellow Anglos. It doesn't have to be exclusively Anglo, but it's important to, and it is important to mix with Israelis. But, if you've got friends and support, that's also very, very important. And then, it takes a village to raise a family. So, your kids all connect with one another, and then you go through what you go through. But yeah, no looking back, like you say. So I'd say keep up the good work that you're doing and inspiring people to come.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And if any of you who are watching have any questions about making Aliyah, about buying a home in Israel, feel free to reach out to us at olimadvisors.com. And we'd be happy to help you, just answer your questions, give you some guidance, and keep on inspiring people to come here and to be successful and lead a very happy life. So thanks again, David, for joining us today. And I wish you all the best. All
the best. Take care. Thank you. Good days ahead. Bye now.
Take care.